Everyone searches, or at least wants to search. This desire is one of the greatest proofs that we're human. But I'm not talking about searching for lost objects or unknown places. I'm talking about that constant search for a purpose, a reason to exist. There's nothing more souled than that. Meaning, mission, calling, legacy, and so much more. Some people hand over this search to coaches or use age as an excuse, hoping that with the passing years, clarity will come on its own. But believe me, your purpose and your mission don't show up by themselves. And even knowing this, what many call self-knowledge ends up being just an endless race. I know you've already tried many times to find that answer, but this isn't news. You might also be tired of searching for something that maybe doesn't even need to be found. What if the problem isn't the lack of purpose, but the obsession with having one? For centuries, religion offered ready-made purposes. Serve God, save your soul, prepare for eternal life. They were total narratives that explained why you were here. Nietzsche called this a collapse when he declared that God was dead. It wasn't an atheistic celebration, it was a cultural diagnosis. The absolute meanings that gave automatic purpose to life had lost the power to convince us. And that left us lost, without ground, without direction. Modernity promised freedom, but delivered us that feeling of waking up without knowing where to go. Without gods to tell us our place in the cosmos, we became responsible for inventing our own reason to be. This terrifies. So we created new idols. Career became vocation. Entrepreneurship became purpose. Leaving a legacy became the new form of immortality. We traded eternal salvation for measurable social impact. But the structure is the same. You need something bigger that justifies your small existence. Otherwise, it's worth nothing. Nietzsche saw the collapse of absolute meanings not as tragedy, but as radical opportunity. For the first time, human beings could create values from scratch, without needing divine authorization. But we wasted this chance. Instead of embracing the terrible freedom of being authors without a script, we ran after new scripts. We want someone to reveal to us what our true purpose is, as if it were hidden inside us, waiting to be discovered. Instead of being something we invent and can uninvent, there's a specific suffering of our era that almost nobody names. Maybe you feel this right now. It's that constant feeling of being behind in life, as if everyone around you had found the manual you never received. That there's an invisible clock marking how much time you've already wasted without discovering your calling. You see younger people who already know what they want, and you feel physical anguish. That pain in your chest is real. This anxiety isn't your weakness. It's the result of living in a society that turned your life into something that needs to be grade A. You can't simply be alive. You need to be alive for something. Every moment without clear direction is waste. Every detour is lost time. Every time you change your mind is a sign of immaturity. The metric of success is no longer happiness or serenity, it's clarity of mission. And the more you search, the more the bar moves. People switch jobs looking for passion. They end relationships because their partner doesn't fit into their vision of the future. Have you ever ended conversations with that thought? This isn't taking me anywhere? They abandon hobbies they loved because they don't serve the greater plan. This cycle is exhausting, not by accident, but by design. And I know you're tired. A population constantly dissatisfied with itself is a controllable, sellable, manipulable population. Think about how institutions have always offered ready-made purposes. School prepared you to be a productive citizen. Church shaped you to serve God. The company gave you a corporate mission. They were external purposes, but they came with complete structure. And along with the purpose came the rules of the game. Accepting the mission meant also accepting who defined what it meant to fulfill it well. Modern capitalism perfected this technique. It no longer just gives you a job, it offers you a cause. You don't work at a tech company, you're changing the world. You don't sell insurance, you're protecting families. Every job needs an epic narrative. And you buy this story because the alternative, admitting you're just paying bills, seems unbearable. But when you accept the purpose the company offers, you also accept working beyond hours, sacrificing health, measuring your worth by how much you produce. Who benefits when you find your purpose within the system? It's not you, who continues exhausted running after goals that others defined. It's those who sell the promise of existential clarity in the form of a course, book, retreat. It's companies that manage to extract more hours when they convince you that you're fulfilling a sacred mission. Purpose became a control tool disguised as self-knowledge. Albert Camus looked at the mismatch between our human need for meaning and the absolute indifference of the universe, and called this the absurd. We're born programmed to seek meaning, reasons, purposes. But the cosmos offers none. There's no divine plan. There's no cosmic destiny. There's only the raw fact of being alive on a planet spinning in the void, creating questions that the universe will never answer. The most common reaction to the absurd is to pretend it doesn't exist. We create religions, ideologies, life purposes, structures that protect us from facing the truth. Camus called this giving up on truth. You choose to live inside a comfortable illusion instead of confronting the void. Our entire culture is built to facilitate this escape. Life purpose is just the secularized version of heavenly paradise. But Camus proposed a third way. Neither fleeing from the absurd through false certainties, nor giving up on living because nothing has final meaning. He told the story of Sisyphus, condemned by the gods to roll a stone up a mountain, watch it roll back down, and start over eternally. Perfect punishment, task without purpose. And then Camus wrote the phrase that changes everything. We must imagine Sisyphus happy, not despite the lack of meaning, but because of it. Happy because he abandoned the need to justify each turn of the stone. Happy because he's free from the weight of making that mean something beyond what it is. Imagining Sisyphus happy is accepting that you can live fully without an answer for why you're living. That it's possible to invest energy, feel passions, create bonds, without needing them to serve a great cosmic narrative. Freedom isn't in finding the right purpose, it's in stopping the search. If there's no cosmic purpose waiting to be discovered, you're radically free to create any meaning you want. Or none. You can wake up tomorrow and decide your life is about learning violin, or about growing plants, or about absolutely nothing beyond experiencing each day without an agenda. There are no rules, there's no right path, there's no way to get it wrong because there's no answer key. This total freedom is dizzying. Most people flee from this vertigo. They prefer to believe there's a true purpose hidden inside them. Because if there is, then they're not totally responsible. They can fail to find it, but at least there's something to find. The alternative, accepting there's nothing there, that you invent everything from scratch, is terrifying. It means every choice is really yours, every direction is arbitrary. There's no essence, there's no destiny. There's no true you beneath the masks. This terror is a necessary passage. The moment you face the void and realize there's no existential safety net is the same moment you become truly free. Because while you believe you need purpose, you'll spend your entire life searching, measuring, doubting. But when you accept that purpose is an optional construction, you can finally stop searching and start living. Why do we cling so much to the idea that we need to have a purpose? Because admitting there's no inherent meaning in existence means looking straight at some hard truths. You're going to die, and nothing you do will change that fact. In a universe of billions of galaxies, your individual life doesn't move any cosmic needle. There's no invisible judge recording your achievements in a golden notebook. When you have a life mission, you can pretend your existence isn't arbitrary, that you're here for a reason, that your choices matter on a cosmic scale, that your death will mean something beyond your body stopping. Purpose is that silent bargain you make in the early morning hours when you can't sleep. If I leave a legacy, if I impact people, if I fulfill my mission, then somehow I keep existing afterward. It's immortality disguised as self-knowledge. But this anesthetic has a high cost. It protects you from the truth, but it also steals your life. And you feel this, even without being able to name it. Because while you're measuring whether your actions serve the great purpose, you're losing the ability to simply experience the moment. Living oriented by future purpose means always being in service of something that hasn't happened yet. You don't hug your child because it feels good to hug. You hug because family moments are part of the balanced life your purpose requires. You don't admire the sunset because it's beautiful, but because contemplative pauses make you more productive afterward. Relationships are sacrificed because they don't fit into the career plan. Opportunities for experimentation are refused because they deviate from the mission. Moments of gratuitous beauty are ignored because they don't contribute to a measurable goal. Purpose transforms life into an instrument, Every experience becomes valuable only for what it delivers to the planned future, never for itself. You're always in transit, never anywhere. The cruel irony is that at the end of life, most people don't regret having failed to fulfill their great purpose. They regret not having been present. Having lost time, worried about plans instead of paying attention to what was happening. Having sacrificed real connections for abstract goals. Purpose promises to give meaning to life, but frequently only manages to steal it. We tell stories about our lives. You do this when someone asks what you do, when you fill out a resume, when you explain to yourself why you are where you are. You take the disconnected pieces of experiences, random decisions, coincidences, and build a narrative that makes sense. We look back and say, I always knew I wanted to be a writer. All the signs were there. We create the illusion of a common thread, as if there had been a master plan from the beginning. But that story is fiction you wrote looking back, not a map that was always there. Real life is chaotic. You make decisions for reasons you don't fully understand. You change direction because something caught your attention on that specific day. You follow paths that lead nowhere. And all of this is normal. But the obsession with purpose taught us it needs to make sense, that there needs to be logic, that the narrative of your life needs to close like a well-written novel. So you force coherence where there are only fragments. This neurotic need to make everything fit prevents you from accepting the contradictions that compose you. You discard old versions as mistakes instead of recognizing them as valid explorations. You feel shame about changes in direction, as if they were failures. The search for coherent narrative transforms you into an authoritarian editor of your own life, cutting everything that doesn't serve the central theme. But what if you simply admitted there's no common thread? That you're a collection of moments, impulses, different versions that coexist without needing to resolve into a single identity? That your life doesn't need to make sense like a story? This admission isn't defeat, it's liberation. It frees you to be contradictory, to change your mind, to leave chapters unfinished without guilt. When you reject the search for purpose, people often assume you've embraced the idea that nothing matters, that you've become someone empty and cynical. But this is a fundamental confusion. Nihilism says that because there's no cosmic meaning, nothing has value. But you can live without defined purpose and still be full of values, passions, commitments. The difference is, they don't need to justify themselves in a grand narrative. You can love someone intensely without it being because relationships are part of your purpose to build a family. You can dedicate years to a craft without needing it to be your sacred vocation. You can care deeply about causes without transforming them into a mission that defines your existence. Things matter simply because you choose that they matter. The difference between living with purpose and living without purpose isn't the difference between meaning and emptiness. It's the difference between weight and lightness. When you have purpose, every choice carries existential gravity. You're always measuring whether you're on the right path. But when you abandon the need for purpose, you can invest energy in things simply because you want to, without needing them to be important on a cosmic scale. You can take things seriously without taking them as absolutes. This lightness isn't indifference. It's that deep breath you let out when you finally stop demanding from yourself every minute of the day. You can paint because you like to paint, not because you're an artist fulfilling creative destiny. You can help someone because you felt like it, not because charity is part of your purpose. You can completely change direction tomorrow without feeling you betrayed some inner calling. Things happen, you live them, they pass. There doesn't need to be a common thread. Without fixed purpose, you're free to transform infinitely. Each version of you can exist fully and then die when it no longer serves, without guilt. You can be obsessed with photography for 5 years and then never touch a camera again. You can dedicate decades to a career and wake up one day knowing it's over. You can fall in love with ideas, places, people, and let them go when the moment passes. The fact that nothing lasts forever stops being a threat and becomes your greatest tool. You're no longer trapped in a fixed identity you need to defend. There's no true you that needs to remain consistent through time. There's only you now, who can be completely different from yesterday's you and tomorrow's you. This fluidity allows radical experimentation. You can try things without fear that they're wrong for your purpose. You can fail without it meaning you failed at who you should be. This capacity for constant metamorphosis is exactly what the search for purpose destroys. When you believe you have a specific mission, you get stuck in it. Changing your mind becomes an existential crisis. Discovering new interests becomes dangerous distraction. But without fixed purpose, every change is just the next step of a dance that never ends. You're free to experiment with versions of yourself without needing to choose one as the true one. The search for purpose is deeply linked to ego, to the need to be special. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all want to feel our life matters. You don't want just any purpose. You want one that sets you apart. That proves your life matters more than the average life. That leaves a mark that will be remembered. It's about personal importance disguised as altruism. And this weighs. Because if your purpose is to make a difference in the world, you need to be constantly up to that imagined greatness. This need for importance transforms you into a relentless judge of yourself. Every day that passes without significant progress is a wasted day. You check social media in the morning and already feel you're behind. Every moment of rest is a luxury you shouldn't be allowing yourself. You live in a state of permanent emergency because people with great purposes can't afford to simply exist. They need to always be building, always proving they deserve the space they occupy. But what if you simply accepted your cosmic insignificance? Not as defeat, but as liberation. You're not special. Your life isn't going to change the course of human history. When you die, the universe will continue indifferent. And this isn't tragedy, it's relief. It means you don't need to carry the burden of being important. You can live small, you can be irrelevant, you can do things that leave no legacy at all, and that's okay. Accepting insignificance isn't resignation, it's lightness. It frees you from the suffocating weight of self-importance. You don't need to save the world, change paradigms, inspire generations. You can tend your garden, do your ordinary work well, love the people close to you, and that's enough. Not because it contributes to some greater purpose, but because you chose for it to be enough. There's a useful distinction worth making here. You don't need purpose, but you can choose engagement. Purpose is a narrative about why you're doing something. Justification that connects present action to future mission. Engagement is simply full attention to what you're doing now, without needing it to serve something beyond itself. When you paint because it's your purpose as an artist, every brushstroke carries existential weight. You're fulfilling a calling, building a body of work. But when you paint from pure engagement, you're just fascinated by the colors mixing on the canvas, by the movement of the brush, by the red stain that spreads when it meets the blue. There's no agenda, there's no goal, there's no future version of you that needs to be built. There's only the action itself, lived fully. Purpose is prison, engagement is play. Purpose says you need to justify time and energy through future result. Engagement says the activity itself is already complete reward. You can be totally invested, dedicated, committed to what you do, without transforming it into a mission that defines who you are. You can play violin 6 hours a day for the pure pleasure of playing, and on the day you get tired of it, you can stop without feeling you abandoned a purpose. If you're enjoying this content, check out in the first comment our exclusive ebook, Alchemy and Archetypes. When you exit the matrix of ready-made narratives, when you stop buying the purposes that culture sells, you discover a specific loneliness. And I know this part hurts more than any other. It's hard to connect with people who still believe they need to find their calling. You're at a dinner, and someone talks about finding their true passion, and all you can think is, does this still matter? You see through the illusion, and that puts you on the outside. This loneliness hurts. You wish you could go back, believe again, worry about the same things everyone worries about. It would be easier. You'd have community, belonging. But you can't unlive what you've seen. And there's a rough beauty in this loneliness. It's a sign you're being honest with yourself instead of performing for an audience. It's the price of authenticity. With time, you find others who also saw through. Not many, but enough. And these connections are different. Lighter, because they don't need to justify themselves. Deeper, because they're not based on performed identities. You can simply be together without needing the relationship to serve a greater purpose. Just shared present, without agenda. So how do you live without purpose in a world obsessed with it? By creating provisional and conscious meanings. Instead of searching for the eternal and true purpose, you invent temporary purposes knowing their constructions. You can commit completely to a project, a relationship, a cause, invest years, and still know it's not absolute, that it can end, that you can change your mind. This awareness doesn't diminish the investment, it just removes that suffocating obsession that keeps you from breathing. You can still take things seriously. You can dedicate yourself. You can care deeply, but you carry everything with lightness. Knowing that today you choose to be here, tomorrow you can choose differently. You build meaning like someone building sandcastles, knowing the tide will take them, and this doesn't diminish the pleasure of building. Provisional purposes free you from the tyranny of consistency. You don't need to be the same person you were 5 years ago. You can have defended ideas you reject today. You can have loved things that bore you today. Each phase had its own meaning, valid in that moment. You're a succession of temporary incarnations, not an immutable essence developing linearly. And this fluidity is strength. Nietzsche wrote about becoming who you are, a paradoxical phrase that most people interpret wrong. It doesn't mean discovering the true essence hidden inside you. It means you're always creating yourself anew. You build yourself, then tear it all down, then rebuild differently. Like a child playing with building blocks who never stops to admire the finished castle. There's no true you beneath the masks. There's only movement, constant transformation. The Nietzschean Superman isn't who found their purpose. It's who dances with the absence of it. Becoming who you are means accepting you're an open project, never finalized, always in process. It means creating values without needing them to be eternal, defending positions without needing them to be absolute. It's radical affirmation of life as flux, not as fulfilled destiny. It's saying yes to impermanence, to contradiction, to the chaos you are. This scares because it removes security. If there's no fixed essence, there's no true you to discover. There's no right path. But it also liberates because it means you can reinvent yourself infinitely without betraying anything. There's no possible betrayal when there's no original truth. You are what you choose to be now, and now, and now. You can be living contradiction, and that's not a problem to be solved. It's a condition to be affirmed. So here's what you can do starting tomorrow morning. Living without purpose in a society obsessed with it is a radical political act disguised as peaceful acceptance. And you don't need to shout this to anyone. You just need to stop demanding from yourself. When you refuse to justify your existence through productivity, measurable impact, defined mission, you're breaking the game. You're saying you don't accept being evaluated, ranked, optimized, that your life isn't for sale in the market of prefabricated meanings. This refusal is dangerous for a system that needs you to be productive, a consumer of solutions for existential crises it created itself, always seeking the next purpose upgrade. When you simply stop playing, when you accept living small, irrelevant, without mission, you become invisible to the metrics that control you. And there's strange power in that. Power to be free in a world of voluntary prisoners who call their cells purpose. You're going to wake up tomorrow not knowing why you're alive, and you'll live anyway. Not because you found an answer, but because you stopped needing one. You'll do things without reason greater than the desire to do them. You'll care about people without them serving a plan. You'll change direction without guilt. You'll exist without justification. Experiment without agenda. Be present without measuring if you're on the right path. The advantage of living without purpose isn't finding peace. It's finding movement. It's not resolving existential anguish. It's dancing with it. It's not filling the void. It's inhabiting it with lightness. You continue living intensely, loving deeply, creating constantly. But all of this stops being a task and becomes a game. And when you finally die, it won't matter if you fulfilled a mission or left a legacy. It will only matter that you were here, totally present, totally alive, without needing any reason beyond the raw and beautiful fact of having existed. If you made it this far, you know content like this doesn't appear everywhere. Consider subscribing to the channel, leaving your like, and checking out the Members Club, where you'll find even deeper reflections that don't fit here. This channel exists because you exist, and your presence here is already enough.